I don't pay you to stand around where important people can see you." The words cut through the marble lobby of the Grand Metropolitan Hotel like a blade. Richard Sterling, the CEO in his expensive suit, pointed toward the service corridor. His finger moved like he was directing traffic or shooing away a stray animal. "Go clean something. Somewhere else." Amara Johnson stood frozen, towels clutched in her hands. Her housekeeping uniform suddenly felt like a scarlet letter under the crystal chandeliers. A Middle Eastern delegation in tailored suits had just entered. They stopped walking. Every eye in that elegant lobby turned to watch a grown woman being dismissed like furniture. Amara's jaw tightened. Her hands trembled around the towels, but she walked toward the service corridor in complete silence, her dignity intact despite the public humiliation. Sterling smiled at his international guests as if nothing happened. "Have you ever been invisible in plain sight, dismissed before anyone discovered who you really are?" 20 minutes later, Sterling's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His face grew redder with each call. "What do you mean he's in the hospital?" Sterling's voice echoed through the executive offices. "The contracts need translating today." Elena Vasquez, head of guest services, watched her boss pace like a caged animal. She'd seen Sterling handle crises before, but this was different. This was panic. "These investors fly back to Dubai tonight," Sterling continued into his phone. "Without proper translation of the legal documents, we lose a $50 million deal." Elena stepped closer. "Richard, what's happening?" "Our Arabic translator was in a car accident. Broken ribs, concussion. He won't be working for weeks." Sterling's voice cracked slightly. "Do you know how complex these contracts are? Islamic banking law, cultural nuances, legal terminology that could bankrupt us if we get it wrong." Elena had worked in hospitality for 20 years. She'd never seen Sterling this rattled. "There has to be someone. I've called every translation service in the city. Everyone is booked. The amateurs want disclaimers I can't sign." Sterling slumped into his leather chair. "Hassan al-Rashid represents a $200 million development project. If this deal falls through..." Elena's mind raced. This hotel employed over 300 people. International contracts kept them competitive. Losing Hassan's business would mean layoffs, budget cuts, possibly closure. Sterling's phone rang again. More bad news from his assistant about translation services. As Sterling's voice rose in desperation, discussing complex Arabic legal terminology, a soft voice drifted from the hallway. Someone was translating his English phrases into perfect, fluent Arabic. Elena's head snapped toward the sound. Amara Johnson stood just outside the office, arranging flowers in a crystal vase. She was unconsciously murmuring translations under her breath, her pronunciation crisp and confident. Elena stepped into the hallway. "Amara?" Amara looked up, startled. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I was just..." "You speak Arabic?" The question hung in the air like electricity before lightning strikes. "You speak Arabic?" Amara's hands stilled on the flower arrangement. Her eyes darted toward Sterling's office, then back to Elena. I studied it in college. But Mr. Sterling doesn't like when we..." "Show me." Elena's voice was gentle but firm. Amara hesitated. "I really should get back to..." "Please." Elena pulled out her phone, scrolling to a complex Arabic business document from the hotel's files. "Can you read this?" Amara glanced at the screen. Something shifted in her posture. Her shoulders straightened slightly, like muscle memory awakening. "This is a hospitality services contract," she said, her voice gaining confidence. "Section 3 discusses liability clauses for international guests. Section 5 outlines dispute resolution procedures under UAE commercial law." Elena's mouth fell open. Amara continued, not just translating, but analyzing. "Actually, there's an error in the currency conversion rates here. This line should read 3.7 dirhams, not 7.3. This mistake could cost the hotel thousands. The transformation was remarkable. Gone was the hesitant housekeeper. In her place stood someone who understood legal nuances, financial implications, and cultural contexts. From Sterling's office came the sound of another frustrated phone call. His voice carried into the hallway, discussing Arabic legal terminology that most Americans couldn't pronounce. That's when Hassan al-Rashid appeared at the top of the marble staircase. The lead investor had been waiting in his suite, but Sterling's increasingly frantic calls had drawn him downstairs. Hassan was a man accustomed to reading situations quickly. You don't build a business empire without that skill. He heard Amara speaking Arabic. Not broken. Tourist Arabic. Fluent, legal, precise Arabic. Hassan approached quietly, listening as Elena showed Amara another document. This one dealt with international investment law, property rights, and cross-border financial regulations. Amara read it aloud, her pronunciation perfect. Then she paused. "This contract has a potential problem," she said to Elena. The Arabic version specifies ownership transfer upon completion, but the English summary only mentions usage rights. That's a significant legal difference. Hassan stepped forward. "Excuse me." Both women turned. Amara's face immediately showed recognition. She'd seen Hassan with the delegation earlier. Hassan addressed Amara directly in rapid, complex Arabic. He spoke about commercial property law, discussing technical terms that would challenge even professional translators. Amara responded without hesitation. Her Arabic flowed naturally, discussing international business regulations, cultural considerations in contract negotiation, even specific UAE legal precedents. Hassan's eyebrows rose higher with each exchange. The conversation continued for 2 minutes. Hassan asked increasingly complex questions about Islamic banking principles, about American corporate law, about how cultural differences affect business relationships. Amara handled every topic with expertise. Finally, Hassan switched back to English. "Ms. Johnson. Amara Johnson. Ms. Johnson, your command of legal Arabic is exceptional. Better than most professional translators I've worked with." Hassan paused, studying her housekeeping uniform with obvious confusion. "Where did you study?" "Georgetown University, International Relations, with a focus on Middle Eastern studies." The words hung in the air like a revelation. Sterling's office door flew open. He'd finished his latest unsuccessful phone call and heard voices in the hallway. "What's going on out here? Hassan, is everything—" Sterling stopped mid-sentence, seeing his housekeeper in deep conversation with his most important client. "Richard," Hassan said, his voice carrying new respect, "I believe we've found your solution." Sterling looked from Hassan to Amara to Elena, clearly confused. "What are you talking about?" "This young lady has been discussing complex commercial law with me in perfect Arabic. Her understanding is remarkable." Sterling stared at Amara as if seeing her for the first time. The woman he'd dismissed an hour earlier was speaking about international business law with his $50 million client. "But she's—" Sterling caught himself before finishing the sentence. "She's exactly what we need," Elena said firmly. Hassan nodded. "Ms. Johnson, would you be willing to assist with our contract review? Your expertise would be invaluable." For the first time since her public humiliation in the lobby, Amara smiled. "I would be honored." Sterling's confusion was written across his face like headlines. He kept staring at Amara as if she'd just revealed she could fly. "I don't understand," he said slowly. "You're telling me you have a Georgetown degree?" Elena placed a supportive hand on Amara's shoulder. "Why don't you tell us your story?" Amara took a breath. The scholar was emerging from behind the uniform. "I graduated magna cum laude with my master's in international relations 3 years ago. I specialized in Middle Eastern studies and speak 4 languages fluently: Arabic, French, Spanish, and Mandarin. Hassan listened with growing respect. Sterling's face showed something between amazement and embarrassment. Then, how did you end up? Sterling gestured vaguely at her housekeeping uniform. Student loans, Amara said simply. $60,000 of debt. Then my mother needed emergency surgery 2 years ago, triple bypass. The medical bills were crushing, even with insurance. Her voice remained steady, but Elena could see the cost of telling this story. I took this job because it offered good health coverage and steady pay. I kept applying for positions in my field, but... She paused, choosing her words carefully. I've sent out over 200 resumes in 2 years. Most companies don't even respond. Why not? Hassan asked, though his tone suggested he suspected the answer. When hiring managers see Georgetown graduates with a 2-year gap filled by hotel housekeeping, they make assumptions. Either I'm not serious about my career, or I'm not as qualified as my resume suggests. Sterling shifted uncomfortably. His morning's dismissiveness suddenly felt very heavy. I've had 3 interviews in 2 years, Amara continued. Each time the first question was about the gap in my employment history. The conversation never moved past that. Hassan's expression darkened. In my country, we have a saying, the diamond doesn't lose its value because it's covered in dust. Amara's eyes brightened at the cultural reference. I love that. Languages are my passion because they build bridges between worlds. Every morning when I clean these rooms, I hear international business calls through the doors. I listen to how deals are structured, problems solved, relationships built. She looked directly at Sterling. I just never imagined anyone would want to hear what I had to offer. The weight of wasted potential hung in the air between them. Elena stepped forward, her voice cutting through the uncomfortable silence. Richard, Hassan's team needs those contracts reviewed before the 2 o'clock meeting. Amara could... But she's... Sterling caught himself again, but the words hung in the air anyway. I mean, this is a $50 million deal. We need someone with proper credentials, professional experience in... Hassan raised his hand gently. With respect, Mr. Sterling, I just witnessed her expertise firsthand. I'd rather work with someone who understands nuance than someone with just a business card. Sterling's phone buzzed with another text from his assistant. No translation services available. The clock was ticking toward Hassan's evening flight. Elena placed her hand on Amara's shoulder. What do you think? Are you comfortable taking this on? Amara straightened. The transformation was subtle but unmistakable. Shoulders back, chin up, the scholar stepping forward. I'd be honored to help. 30 minutes later, they sat in the hotel's executive conference room. The mahogany table reflected the afternoon light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Hassan sat across from Amara, Omar Al-Zahra beside him. The visual contrast was striking. 3 men in $1,000 suits, and Amara still in her housekeeping uniform, sitting at a table where million-dollar deals were made. Hassan placed the first document before her, a complex merger agreement dense with legal terminology. Amara's fingers traced the Arabic text as she read. Her pronunciation was crisp, confident, each word delivered with precision. This clause about intellectual property transfer has ambiguous language, she said, looking up from the document. The word Tamaluk here could mean both ownership and possession, which might create legal complications down the road. Hassan and Omar exchanged glances. Omar leaned forward. What would you suggest? If you modify paragraph 4.3 to use milkiya instead, it clearly establishes full ownership transfer rather than temporary possession rights. Omar spoke in rapid Arabic to Hassan. She caught the exact issue our Dubai lawyers flagged last week. Amara responded in Arabic without missing a beat. If you're concerned about enforceability across jurisdictions, you might also consider adding a clarification clause referencing both UAE and U.S. commercial law precedents. Sterling watched this exchange with growing amazement. Legal concepts he barely understood were being discussed fluently by someone he'd ordered to clean something 3 hours earlier. The documents grew increasingly complex. International tax implications, cultural considerations for business practices, regulatory requirements across multiple countries. Amara handled each section with growing confidence, often providing insights that went far beyond mere translation. This section discusses Islamic banking compliance, she explained to Sterling's legal team. The Arabic specifies riba-free financing, which means interest-free lending structures. In Western terms, you're looking at equity partnerships rather than traditional debt financing. James Patterson, Sterling's head legal counsel, leaned forward. Is that more or less favorable to us? Generally more favorable. Equity partnerships align both parties' interests toward project success rather than just debt service. Hassan smiled. Exactly correct. For 2 intense hours, they worked through contract after contract, complex legal language, cultural nuances that could make or break international relationships, financial structures that crossed multiple legal systems. When Hassan's phone rang with a call from Dubai, Amara seamlessly facilitated the three-way conversation, translating not just words but context, cultural meaning, business implications. As the session concluded, Hassan gathered his papers with obvious satisfaction. Ms. Johnson, this has been exceptional work. You've prevented several potential legal disputes and saved us significant time. Sterling sat quietly, processing what he'd witnessed. Amara smiled, her confidence now unmistakable. Thank you. Languages are living bridges. It's not enough to translate words if you don't understand the worlds they connect. Within hours of Hassan's praise echoing through the executive conference room, news of Amara's success had spread through every corner of the hotel. The housekeeping staff's quiet efficiency suddenly buzzed with whispered conversations. Reactions were sharply divided. In the staff break room that afternoon, Jennifer Walsh cornered Elena near the coffee machine. Her smile was tight, professional, but her eyes flashed with irritation. Elena, I need to speak with you about this situation with the housekeeping staff. You mean Amara? She just helped save a $50 million deal. That's exactly the problem. Jennifer lowered her voice, glancing around to ensure they were alone. We have protocols, hierarchies that exist for good reasons. You can't just elevate someone overnight because they happen to speak a language. Elena's expression hardened. Happen to speak a language? She has a master's degree from Georgetown. She's a maid, Elena. A maid with student debt and a sob story. Jennifer's tone turned sharp. This kind of thing, it's disruptive. The other department heads are already asking questions about favoritism, about proper procedures being ignored. What message does that send to our actually trained management staff? Elena stepped closer. The message that competence matters more than assumptions? Meanwhile, David Morrison had been fielding concerned calls from department heads all afternoon. He intercepted Sterling outside his office, briefcase bulging with policy manuals. Richard, we need to discuss serious liability concerns. This Johnson woman has no official translator certification, no professional insurance coverage, no background checks for accessing confidential financial documents. Sterling paused. Hassan specifically requested to work with her again tomorrow. Hassan doesn't understand our corporate structure or legal exposure. Morrison's voice carried decades of risk management authority. We have professional standards, proper channels. You're setting a dangerous precedent letting someone leap from housekeeping to executive consulting without following protocol. Back in housekeeping, Maria Gonzalez pulled Amara aside in the supply closet. Mija, be very careful. Jennifer's been asking questions about your attitude, whether you think you're too good for your regular duties now. Amara folded towels mechanically. I'm just helping with translation work. Tomorrow I'll be back to cleaning rooms like always. Maybe that's the problem, Maria said softly. You're making some people uncomfortable by being more than they expected. The resistance created an undercurrent of tension. Amara overheard Jennifer on a phone call. We can't have housekeeping staff thinking they can just reinvent their job descriptions because they have unused college degrees. Half our employees would be demanding promotions. Even some housekeeping colleagues grew distant. Susan Miller muttered to others, "Some people just can't be satisfied with honest work. Always got to make themselves seem special." By evening, battle lines were drawn. Those who saw potential versus those who saw disruption. Those who welcomed growth versus those who feared losing control. Amara felt the weight of being not just herself anymore, but a symbol of change that some people desperately wanted to stop. Despite whispers of resistance from some staff members and HR concerns about protocol, the afternoon meeting proceeded as planned. Sterling had made his decision. Amara's proven expertise outweighed institutional hesitation. The executive conference room buzzed with nervous energy, but now carried an undercurrent of tension. Word had spread about Jennifer Walsh's objections and David Morrison's liability warnings. Some staff watched from the hallway, curious whether this housekeeping experiment would succeed or spectacularly fail. Amara entered wearing Elena's borrowed blazer, aware that skeptical eyes were evaluating her every move. The transformation was remarkable, confident posture, professional appearance, but carrying the weight of needing to prove herself all over again. Hassan's team sat across the mahogany table from Sterling's lawyers. Documents covered the surface like a paper battlefield. The stakes felt higher now, charged with institutional resistance that threatened to undermine everything. What unfolded over the next 3 hours was masterful and necessary. Hassan's colleagues struggled to explain a traditional Gulf business practice to Sterling's team. The concept was getting lost in translation, creating visible frustration on both sides. In the hallway, Jennifer Walsh watched through the glass conference room doors, arms crossed, clearly hoping for failure. Amara stepped in smoothly. The concept Mr. Alzara is describing is WASTA relationship-based trust that enables commerce. It's not corruption, but rather how business relationships create reliability. In Western terms, it's similar to how Silicon Valley operates on network connections and referrals. Sterling's team suddenly understood. Tension dissolved into nods of recognition. Through the glass, Jennifer's expression shifted from skeptical to surprised. The real test came when the Arabic contract included a phrase that, translated literally, could derail the entire deal. This section says, Inshallah tatim al-safka, Amara explained carefully. Literally, it means, God willing, the deal will be completed. In English business contexts, this might sound non-committal or uncertain. Sterling's lawyers looked concerned, exactly the kind of cultural misunderstanding David Morrison had warned about. But in Arabic business culture, Amara continued, this phrase actually expresses serious commitment with appropriate humility. It shows respect for forces beyond human control while affirming strong intent. I'd suggest we translate this as, we are fully committed to completing this agreement, to maintain the spirit while fitting Western expectations. Hassan nodded approvingly. Exactly right. Cultural translation, not just linguistic. The meeting's success became immediately measurable. Documents that had stalled for weeks suddenly moved forward. Misunderstandings that had created tension evaporated. James Patterson approached Elena during a break, his voice carrying genuine amazement. I've never seen international negotiations flow this smoothly. Usually we lose hours to clarification and cultural confusion. She's eliminated all of that. But Amara's impact went deeper than efficiency. Fatima Al-Mansouri, the delegation's financial analyst, had been struggling to get her technical contributions understood. Her accent made her English unclear to Sterling's team, and her sophisticated insights were being overlooked. Amara noticed immediately. When Fatima raised concerns about currency fluctuation risks, Amara translated not just her words, but her expertise. Ms. Al-Mansouri is highlighting that the dirham-dollar exchange rate has been volatile recently. She's suggesting a hedging strategy that could save both parties significant money if implemented correctly. Sterling's CFO suddenly paid attention. By the end, Fatima's recommendations were incorporated into the deal structure. Hassan observed these interactions with growing appreciation. Ms. Johnson, you're not just translating words, you're translating worlds. My team feels understood, and your team understands us. Through the conference room glass, the skeptical watchers had gradually dispersed. Even Jennifer Walsh appeared thoughtful rather than resistant. Sterling watched it all unfold, finally understanding what Elena had tried to tell him. This wasn't just about today's success, it was about what exceptional service actually looked like. Elena knocked on Sterling's office door at 6 p.m. The mahogany-paneled room felt heavier now, weighted with the day's revelations. "Richard, we need to talk." Sterling gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. He looked exhausted, processing what he'd witnessed. "Elena, I know what you're going to say. I was wrong this morning. Completely, embarrassingly wrong." "This isn't about hurt feelings, Richard." Elena placed Amara's personnel file on his desk. "This is about lost opportunities." Sterling opened the file. Georgetown University transcripts. Magna cum laude. Phi Beta Kappa. Letters of recommendation from professors. Language proficiency certifications. She's been cleaning our rooms for 2 years while we've been paying outside consultants $300 an hour for cultural and linguistic services. Sterling studied each document. Academic achievements that would impress any employer. Skills that directly matched their business needs. Hassan's team specifically requested her for tomorrow's contract finalization, Elena continued. James from legal says she prevented 3 potential legal issues that could have cost us millions. And she did it all while wearing a housekeeping uniform because that's how we categorized her. Sterling closed the file slowly. "What are you proposing?" "I'm proposing we recognize talent wherever we find it. Amara should head a new international guest relations department. She has the education, the skills, and clearly the respect of our international clients." "Elena, you know I value your judgment, but this is unprecedented. HR will have concerns. The board will ask questions about promoting someone from housekeeping to management." Elena interrupted. "The board will ask harder questions if we lose international contracts because we can't communicate effectively with clients." She handed him Hassan's business card. On the back, handwritten in elegant script, "Mr. Sterling, if you have more staff with Ms. Johnson's capabilities, I'd like to discuss expanding our partnership significantly. Cultural understanding creates trust. Trust creates successful business. Hassan al-Rashid." Sterling read the note twice, then looked up. "Hassan represents a $200 million development project," Elena said. "His endorsement alone could bring in similar clients, Dubai, Qatar, Kuwait. There's massive investment flowing into U.S. hospitality right now." Sterling stood, walking to his window overlooking the city's glittering lights. "You really believe in her?" "I believe in recognizing excellence, regardless of its packaging. Amara didn't change in the last 8 hours, Richard. We just finally saw her." Sterling was quiet for a long moment. The city spread out below them, full of talented people whose abilities might never be discovered. "You know what the hardest part of leadership is, Elena? It's not making big decisions. It's realizing when your small assumptions have been creating big blind spots." He turned back to her. "I dismissed someone extraordinary because I looked at her uniform instead of her potential. How many others have I missed?" Elena smiled. "That's exactly why this matters. It's not just about Amara. It's about creating systems that discover talent instead of overlooking it." Sterling returned to his desk, picking up his phone. "Set up a meeting with Amara tomorrow morning. And Elena, I want you to think bigger. If we're going to change how we recognize talent, let's do it properly." Elena stood to leave, then paused. "Richard? Thank you for being willing to grow. Thank you for making sure I had to." At 9 p.m., the hotel's marble corridors echoed with quiet footsteps. Elena found Amara in the staff break room, still wearing the borrowed blazer, updating her resume on a worn laptop. The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. Coffee lingered in the air from the day shift. "How are you feeling about today?" Amara looked up, her eyes tired but bright. "Honestly, like I remembered who I am. I'd almost started believing I was just what people saw when they looked at this uniform." Elena sat in the plastic chair beside her. The corporate hierarchy dissolved in that simple moment, two women sharing truth over lukewarm coffee. "Can I tell you something? I've been in hospitality for 20 years. I worked my way up from the front desk reception. I know what it feels like to be underestimated. But you made it to management." "I did. But I also remember every person who saw potential in me when I couldn't see it in myself." Elena paused, looking directly at Amara. "Today, Hassan didn't just praise your Arabic skills. He told me you have nafas tawil, a long breath." "He said that?" "In Arabic business culture, it means patience, depth, the ability to see long-term relationships rather than quick transactions. He said most Americans rush to close deals, but you took time to understand the people first. That's why his team trusts you." Amara closed her laptop, processing this insight about herself. "Elena, can I ask you something? Why did you speak up for me today? You barely knew me before this morning." Elena smiled softly. "Because I recognized something. When you translated that first document, your entire presence changed. You stood differently, spoke differently. That wasn't someone pretending to know Arabic. That was someone remembering their strength." "I haven't felt intellectually challenged in 2 years," Amara admitted. "Today, for the first time since I took this job, I felt like I was contributing something meaningful beyond clean towels and fresh sheets." "Those matter too," Elena said gently. "But you deserve to use all your gifts, not just the ones that fit other people's expectations." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The break room's vending machine hummed quietly. "Tomorrow, Sterling wants to meet about creating a permanent position. Are you ready for that conversation?" Amara straightened, the scholar returning to her posture. "I've been ready for 2 years. I just needed someone to see it." Elena reached across and squeezed Amara's hand. "Sometimes the hardest part isn't proving you're capable. It's believing you deserve the chance to show it." "Thank you," Amara whispered, "for seeing me. Thank you for being worth seeing." In that fluorescent-lit break room, something profound had shifted. Not just a career, but a life reclaiming its true direction. The next morning brought chaos Sterling hadn't anticipated. His phone rang at 7 a.m. Hassan's voice carried urgency across the line. "Richard, my business partner Khalid Al-Mansouri just landed at JFK. He's bringing 3 additional investors and a proposal that could triple our original agreement, but only if we can negotiate today." Sterling's coffee mug froze halfway to his lips. "Today? Hassan, I know it's sudden. Khalid doesn't like to waste time. He's heard about yesterday's successful negotiations and wants to expand the partnership immediately. But Richard..." Hassan paused. "Khalid is known for complex, high-stakes negotiations. One cultural misunderstanding could kill everything." 20 minutes later, Sterling stood in Elena's office, pacing like a caged tiger. "This is beyond yesterday's translation work," he said. "Khalid Al-Mansouri is legendary in Dubai business circles. He speaks rapidly, uses incredibly complex financial terminology, and has zero patience for confusion or delays." Elena watched Sterling's mounting panic. "Do you trust Amara?" "I trust her language skills, but this is corporate diplomacy at the highest level. The original deal was $50 million. If Khalid's serious about tripling it, we're talking about a $150 million negotiation. And one misunderstood clause. One cultural misstep, one translation error could cost us the entire relationship. Elena's phone buzzed. A text from Amara. Ready when needed. At 10 a.m., the hotel's executive boardroom felt electric with tension. Sterling sat at the head of the mahogany table, his legal team flanking him. Hassan occupied the opposite end with Khalid al-Mansouri, a distinguished man in his 60s with sharp eyes that seemed to calculate everything. Khalid had brought 3 additional investors, each representing different sectors: technology, real estate, hospitality. The room buzzed with multiple languages and the weight of enormous financial stakes. Amara entered wearing a professional navy suit Elena had helped her purchase that morning. The transformation was complete confident posture, professional appearance, but most importantly, the quiet assurance of someone ready to perform at the highest level. Khalid's eyes settled on her immediately. "And you are?" "Amara Johnson. I'll be facilitating today's negotiations." Khalid's expression remained skeptical. "Ms. Johnson, my proposal involves integrated smart city technology, Islamic banking compliance, and multi-jurisdictional legal structures. This requires a deep understanding of Sharia commercial law, Western corporate frameworks, and emerging technology applications." He leaned forward slightly. "Are you prepared for this level of complexity?" The room held its collective breath. This was the moment of ultimate testing. Amara met his gaze steadily. "Mr. al-Mansouri, I understand your concerns about working with someone new. Shall we begin with your technical specifications, and I'll demonstrate my comprehension as we proceed?" Khalid smiled slightly, the first crack in his serious demeanor. "Very well." What followed was a masterclass in real-time cultural and technical translation. Khalid presented architectural plans covered in Arabic annotations describing Islamic architectural principles that needed integration with modern, sustainable building design. "The concept he's outlining," Amara explained to Sterling's team, "is al-Handasa al-Islamiyya Islamic engineering. It's not just about aesthetics, but creating spaces that reflect Islamic values of community connection, environmental harmony, and privacy balance." She turned to Sterling's architect. "In Western terms, this aligns perfectly with biophilic design principles and sustainable community planning. The cultural requirements actually enhance the environmental goals you've outlined." Khalid's eyebrows rose with genuine interest. The financial component proved even more challenging. Khalid explained Islamic banking principles that prohibited interest-based lending, requiring completely alternative financial structures. "He's proposing a musharaka partnership," Amara translated to Sterling's CFO. "Instead of traditional debt financing, it's shared equity with profit distribution rather than fixed interest payments." James Patterson looked confused. "Is that more or less favorable to us?" "More favorable," Amara explained. "Your returns are tied to project success rather than debt service. If the development performs well, your profits are higher. If it underperforms, your obligations are lower." "That's actually brilliant," Patterson murmured. But the real test came when cultural tensions threatened the entire negotiation. Khalid expressed deep concern about American business practices conflicting with Islamic ethical requirements. His voice carried frustration as he spoke in rapid Arabic about corporate responsibility and community impact. The room's energy shifted toward potential collapse. Sterling's team looked confused. Khalid's investors appeared ready to leave. Amara recognized the critical moment. This was where cultural translation mattered most. "Mr. al-Mansouri," she said in Arabic, "I understand your concerns about ethical alignment. May I help bridge this cultural gap?" Khalid nodded, his expression still stern. Amara addressed Sterling's team. "Khalid isn't questioning profitability. He's ensuring this partnership reflects values both cultures can respect. His investment philosophy prioritizes projects that create community jobs, support local economies, and maintain environmental responsibility." She paused, making eye contact with Sterling. In American business terms, he's describing ESG investing, environmental, social, and governance principles that are increasingly important to Western investors too. Sterling's expression changed. That aligns perfectly with our corporate sustainability commitments. Amara turned back to Khalid, speaking in Arabic. Mr. Sterling's hotel group has committed to carbon neutrality by 2030 and prioritizes local hiring. Their values are expressed differently, but align with your principles. The room's atmosphere transformed completely. What had seemed like an unbridgeable cultural divide became the foundation for deeper partnership. Khalid leaned back, his stern expression softening into respect. Ms. Johnson, you haven't just translated language, you've translated worldviews. The negotiation continued for 4 intense hours. Complex legal documents requiring real-time interpretation, technical specifications needing cultural context, financial structures crossing multiple legal systems. Amara handled each challenge with growing mastery, often providing insights that went beyond translation to strategic advice. By 2 p.m., the impossible had happened. Both sides had reached agreement on a $150 million development project. Khalid stood, extending his hand to Sterling. Mr. Sterling, your cultural liaison is remarkable. She has basira insight that transcends mere knowledge. He turned to Amara. I would like to work exclusively with you on all future projects. Cultural understanding of this caliber is extraordinarily rare. Hassan smiled broadly. In our culture, we say, Al-Hikmah Dala ala Sahibiha, wisdom reveals its owner. Today, your wisdom has created something beautiful. Sterling stared at the signed contracts, then at Amara. The woman he'd dismissed yesterday morning had just facilitated the largest deal in his hotel's history. That evening, Sterling called an emergency all-staff meeting in the hotel's grand ballroom. Word had spread like wildfire throughout the building. Housekeeping staff whispered in supply closets. Front desk clerks exchanged glances during shift changes. Managers huddled in hallways discussing the unprecedented day. The ballroom's crystal chandeliers cast warm light over gathered hotel employees. Housekeeping staff stood beside front desk managers. Food service workers chatted with security personnel. The usual hierarchy was visible but somehow softer tonight, united by curiosity and anticipation. Amara arrived unsure of what awaited her. She'd changed back into her regular clothes, a simple black dress that Elena had complimented earlier. She felt exposed, knowing that everyone had heard fragments of her story by now. Sterling took the podium, Hassan and Khalid flanking him. The sight of the international businessmen delaying their flights for a hotel staff meeting sent murmurs through the crowd. 2 days ago, I thought I understood what excellent service meant, Sterling began, his voice carrying across the hushed ballroom. I thought I knew how to recognize talent, how to maximize our team's potential. He paused, looking directly at Amara in the audience. I was completely wrong. The room fell silent. Yesterday morning, I learned that exceptional ability doesn't always announce itself with resumes and credentials. Sometimes it's been there all along, quietly serving, waiting for someone to pay attention. Sterling gestured toward Amara. Would you join me up here? Amara hesitated. Maria Gonzalez, her friend from housekeeping, squeezed her hand encouragingly. Elena nodded from across the room. Slowly, Amara walked to the front as her colleagues began to applaud. The sound grew, not polite, obligatory clapping, but genuine appreciation from people who understood the courage it takes to step forward. Amara Johnson has worked in our housekeeping department for 2 years, Sterling continued. What I never discovered, what I never bothered to learn, is that she graduated magna cum laude from Georgetown University with a master's in international relations and speaks 4 languages fluently. Surprised murmurs rippled through the audience. Jennifer Walsh, the assistant manager who had earlier questioned Amara's promotion, looked genuinely shocked. More importantly, in the past 2 days, Amara hasn't just translated documents. She's built bridges between cultures, prevented legal disasters, and facilitated the largest international partnership in our hotel's history. Hassan stepped forward, requesting the microphone. In Arabic culture, we deeply respect those who possess ilm, not just knowledge, but wisdom applied with grace, Hassan said to the gathered staff. Yesterday and today, Ms. Johnson demonstrated both extraordinary competence and remarkable dignity under pressure. Hassan then did something no one expected. He reached into his jacket and withdrew an elegant wooden box. This pen belonged to my grandfather, who built his first business on the principle that understanding creates prosperity. Hassan opened the box, revealing a gold fountain pen with Arabic calligraphy engraved along its length. The inscription reads, Al-Kalam Yabni al-Jisr, words build bridges. I want you to have this, Ms. Johnson, as recognition that your gift for building understanding has created something valuable for all of us. Amara accepted the pen with visible emotion. The cultural significance wasn't lost on anyone. This wasn't just a gift, but a symbol of respect from one culture to another. But Sterling wasn't finished. Effective immediately, Amara is being promoted to Director of International Guest Relations, a new position created specifically to utilize her unique talents. Applause erupted again, louder this time. The salary represents a 300% increase from her housekeeping position, plus full benefits and a professional development budget. Maria called out from the audience, Amara always helped us understand the international guests. She made everyone feel welcome. Other staff members nodded, sharing quick stories of Amara's quiet acts of cultural translation that had made their jobs easier and guests happier. Elena took the microphone next. But this isn't just about one person's success story. This is about fundamentally changing how we discover and develop talent throughout our organization. She announced new initiatives, comprehensive skills assessments for all employees, regular one-on-one meetings to identify hidden capabilities, partnerships with local universities to support continuing education. How many brilliant minds are we underutilizing because we only see job titles instead of complete human beings? Elena asked. David Morrison from HR stepped forward, looking slightly uncomfortable but sincere. I want to acknowledge that our traditional hiring and advancement practices have been limited. We are committed to expanding how we recognize and nurture talent. The symbolic moment peaked when Khalid addressed the audience. In business, we often discuss human resources as if people are materials to be consumed. But you have human capital here, investments that grow in value when properly cultivated. Ms. Johnson proves this principle beautifully. Sterling invited Amara to speak. She approached the microphone, no longer the invisible housekeeping employee, but a recognized leader. 2 years ago, I took this job because I needed steady income and health insurance for my family, she began, her voice strong and clear. I told myself it was temporary, just until I found something in my field. Her tone grew more confident. What I discovered is that every job has dignity when you bring your complete self to it. I learned as much about genuine hospitality from my housekeeping colleagues as I did about international relations in graduate school. She looked directly at Maria and her former colleagues. Maria taught me that making someone feel at home doesn't require speaking their language, it requires recognizing their humanity. That's a skill more valuable than any degree. Amara held up Hassan's pen, the gold catching the chandelier light. But I also learned that having your abilities recognized isn't a luxury. It's how we honor both individual potential and collective success. Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. This pen represents more than personal achievement. It represents the possibility that exists when we look beyond assumptions and create space for everyone to contribute their greatest gifts. The applause was sustained and heartfelt. Even Jennifer Walsh joined in, her earlier resistance dissolved by witnessing genuine excellence. Hassan addressed the crowd one final time. We're expanding our partnership with this hotel specifically because of the cultural competence and innovative thinking we've experienced here. Excellence recognizes excellence, regardless of its packaging. Sterling's final announcement brought the evening full circle. Amara's first major project as director will be developing a cultural competency program to be implemented across our entire hotel chain, a direct result of her unique perspective and proven capabilities. As the meeting concluded, staff members approached Amara with congratulations, questions about the new programs, and stories of their own hidden talents. The transformation was complete, from dismissed servant to recognized leader, with systemic change following individual recognition. 3 months later, sunlight streamed through the windows of Amara's new office. What had once been a storage room was now a vibrant workspace decorated with international flags and cultural artifacts from grateful clients. The transformation extended far beyond one person's success. Elena knocked and entered, carrying monthly reports. "The numbers are remarkable, Amara. International client satisfaction up 40%. Revenue from overseas partnerships increased by 250%. Amara looked up from her desk, Hassan's golden pen in her hand as she reviewed applications for the hotel's new talent discovery program. "The financial success is gratifying, but what makes me proudest is what Maria told me yesterday." "What's that?" "She's enrolled in night classes to finish her bachelor's degree. She said watching my story made her realize it's never too late to grow." Elena smiled. This ripple effect was exactly what they'd hoped for. Sterling appeared in the doorway, holding an elegant envelope. "Amara, this came for you personally." The letter bore Georgetown University's seal. Inside, an invitation to speak at their School of Foreign Service Career Development seminar about discovering hidden talent in unexpected places. "They want to use your story as a case study," Sterling explained, "teaching future diplomats and international business leaders about recognizing human potential wherever it exists." Amara stared at the letter, remembering her job applications that went unanswered, her interviews that never progressed past explaining her employment gap. "A year ago, I wondered if my Georgetown education would ever matter again." "It always mattered," Sterling said quietly. "We just weren't paying attention." The scene shifted to the hotel lobby, where change was visible everywhere. A small bronze plaque near the reception desk read, "Excellence exists in every person. Our commitment is discovering, developing, and celebrating it." Below the plaque, photos showed staff members who'd been promoted based on discovered talents. Miguel Santos from maintenance, now consulting on international projects with his engineering background. Dr. Sarah Kim, formerly in part-time food service, now providing specialized wellness consulting. The final scene unfolded in the same marble lobby where Amara's story began. A Brazilian delegation had just arrived, struggling with translation issues at the front desk. Miguel Santos approached confidently, speaking fluent Portuguese. "Bem-vindos ao Grand Metropolitan. I'm Miguel Santos, and I'll be delighted to assist with everything you need during your stay." The delegation's relief was immediate. Behind the front desk, Jasmine Carter, who'd started in housekeeping but revealed accounting expertise, handled their financial arrangements with professional competence. Amara watched from her office doorway, reviewing scholarship applications for the Talent Discovery Program, jointly funded by the hotel and Hassan's investment group. Elena joined her. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about all the Amaras still out there, brilliant people whose talents remain hidden by circumstances, assumptions, or simple lack of opportunity. And I'm thinking we've only begun to scratch the surface of what's possible. But this story isn't really about one hotel or one woman's remarkable journey. It's about a truth that exists in every workplace, every community, every place where human potential waits to be discovered. Right now, someone you work with has capabilities you've never imagined. The quiet person in the corner might speak 3 languages. The janitor might have an engineering degree. The part-time worker might possess expertise that could transform your entire operation. Excellence doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It often works quietly, wearing whatever uniform life has required, waiting patiently for someone brave enough to look beyond assumptions. This week, take 5 minutes to really see the people around you. Ask about their background, their interests, their dreams that might not fit their current role. Listen to their stories. You might discover that the solution to your biggest challenge has been there all along. Comment below and tell us. Have you ever discovered hidden talent in an unexpected place? Or has someone seen potential in you that others missed? Your story could inspire someone else to look beyond the surface. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps us share more stories of hidden potential being discovered. And subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of people whose talents were waiting to be seen. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of their own hidden worth. Sometimes we all need to be seen for who we really are. Excellence whispers in quiet moments, waiting for someone brave enough to listen.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.